But you need to refer to those kind of mistakes and put them in the, that can be part of your overview. It can be a mini overview at the top of your key argument. If you're gonna put all your eggs in a disad basket or put all of your eggs in T or in whatever argument you're going for, you can have a mini overview at the top of that argument and say, here's the mistakes they've made. Watch how bad it is for them. Let's go to the line by line. And then as you go to the line by line, you're pointing out all the mistakes they made, and the judge is remembering, oh yeah, that's bad for them, and seeing all the mistakes they made. And now, when they try to recover in their 2AR, the judge is acutely aware of each mistake they made, because you've pointed them out. Now, sometimes you can go too far. You can hound on that too much and come across as a jackass. You want to be careful and not be too, you don't want to make fun of them for making mistakes. You just want to point out that it's really bad for them strategically and try to be just calm and cool about it and just be in control about it. You don't want to push them around, so to speak, in a bullying kind of context. But you do want to make the judge aware of why you're going for this argument. I'm going for this disad because they didn't spend enough time there. That's going to be bad for them in the rest of the debate because by not answering the internal link level, they don't realize how that interacts with their link arguments or their unique arguments or whatever. And make those kind of arguments. Just make the judge aware of why you made the strategic decision that you made. That you want the judge to know why you're making each choice. Because that will help them understand the big picture of why they should vote for you. Because they understand the choices you've made. Other things too that I want to talk about really quick is stuff like critiques and how they impact the time skew. If you're arguing against someone who runs a critique, you need to be careful to not count that as one argument. You probably need to flow a critique on several sheets of paper. You probably have to have a piece of paper for their framework, a piece of paper for their critique proper and their impacts, a piece of paper for their alternative. That way, when you are deciding your time allocation, you're not saying, I need to spend 3 minutes on the critique. You should be telling yourself, I need to spend a minute and a half on framework, I need to spend a minute on I need to spend 30 seconds playing defense on the foundation and assumptions and impacts of their criticism, and then I need to spend a minute on their alternative. You should have your time broken down specifically to what areas of the critique that you want to cover, not just the critique in general, because then you will find yourself battling and really get stuck on a criticism. I've seen that happen to so many people, and that's because your opponent is so much more familiar with those arguments than you are. They probably run that critique often, they may run it every round, and you get to hit it once, right? And maybe once later in the semester. And so if you don't have a plan going into arguing that criticism, that's when, even though it sounds like the critique debater is giving up the time skew advantage they have, that's actually not true. Because secretly their criticism is several arguments already. And especially if they're running 2 procedurals first and then 5 minutes of their criticism or something like that. It might sound like, oh, I only have 3 arguments to answer. Not true. I've seen people not get to the alternative before, or people not get to the impacts of criticism and the alternative because they spent too much time on framework. Then the critique debater is licking their chops because they're kick the procedurals, 6 minutes on framework, I win. Right? It's a much easier decision for them to make. And so if you break up the critique into the parts that it is and think about how much time do I need to spend on each part, you won't screw yourself, which is bad to do. I hear you. Does anyone have any questions so far? Mark?
If you mentioned ways to get time trade-off in the 1AR include things like theory arguments.
Right.
Can you think of anything else like that?
Yeah, link turns on disads, right, like Rick said.
But I would think that if you were going to make a link turn, you'd want, I don't know.
Or maybe not link turns, but or turns on their other arguments, just turn.
It's a lot harder to kick a dissad if there's offense on the link level.
Right.
It's easy to kick a dissad with impact, impact turns because you can provide defense to that. But it's unpacking, in my opinion at least, unpacking a link debate is more difficult than.
And sometimes you can run a criticism against an argument they've made. You can run a criticism in your 1AR, right? You could, even if it's just 2 cards. Beth used to do that. I talked about her strategy on some of the T's that were run against her case last year. She had, which one did we have the intersectionality terms to, Sam?
1T.
The 1T. Yeah. So we had some offense that talked about on the 1T why not, it should always intersect. like all of those things. What were the 3 things last year? Like human rights and economy and whatever, and public health. Those things always intersect. Like problems with the economy happen because of human rights abuses, or public health problems happen because of bad economies, or whatever. They're always like interrelated and interdependent. So like we would read evidence on the bottom of 1Ts when we read 1T against us that said like you trying to say that those things don't intersect is really bad, and here's what impacts happen. Now they have to answer that turn. So you can just run turns like either a full-blown criticism against maybe gendered language they might have slipped up into or whatever, that can generate, as long as you don't spend too much time on it, you know, because that's more time now that you have to get back to cover if you get too involved. But Hartzman, did you have a question? Okay. Justin.
How do you feel about like more of those arguments in the NR? Stuff like multiple perms bad, you know, like, I don't know, like, yeah, like more, because it's real easy in the 2AR to make golden responses to those types of arguments, but it takes time to make those responses. I just don't know, like, how much room do you think that those types of, like, theory arguments give the 2AR to impact, you know what I'm saying?
It depends how good the debater is.
Yeah.
Like, a good debater will be like, okay, new in the NR is really bad for debate. The time skew is already bad enough. Like, and just put all their eggs in that basket. Just be like 3 minutes on why new in the NR on the theory level is terrible. And then you just might lose on that argument. But they can't do that with every judge, obviously. So I mean, knowing your judge and your opponent, sometimes that will be extremely strategical value. You're probably right. But sometimes it'll be extremely dangerous too. I mean, it's just like in Parley having new in the block or whatever. PMR gets impactors to dissent block.
Saying multiple perms bad if the 1AR makes like 3 perms and the 1NR you said was a bad idea?
What? Yeah, because the 2AR, well, I guess it's not really new.
Because it's the only chance you have a chance to make a theory argument against using multiple.
That's probably true. In that situation, that's probably true. Right.
Can you just explain ways to structure overviews a little bit more?
Yeah.
We use the term overview a lot, but we don't necessarily say what we
That's
want
fair.
to see.
That's fair. What I like to coach about overviews and what I like to hear in overviews is kind of almost why you're going to win the round. Like, I almost want to hear a roadmap for what you're about to do and why that's going to equal a ballot. Personally, I don't know if that makes enough sense or would be even more specific.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Like, for instance, if there's a big concession in the debate that you're going to be making a lot of use of in your debate to win a lot of arguments, like if you buried a really good internal link argument or internal link turn or explanation like a solvency card or something, if that's going to be important to your strategy, that should be in your overview. So like whatever's going to be the overwhelming theme and overarching theme of your rebuttal, my overviews were almost, and what I try to coach is like, they made a mistake by conceding this argument X. Argument X is really important. Circle it on your flow. We're going to come back to that argument a lot, and it's going to be really bad for them. Like whatever, it's just something as simple as that.
I mean, where else are you going to transmit round vision?
What?
Like, that's the only place where you can, like, illustrate round vision.
Right.
And, like, make sure that the judge has the same view of the round that you do.
Right. Or an underview, too, I guess you could do it there as well. So, I mean, that's what I think overviews are good for, is laying out a clear path to the ballot or a clear path to your strategy choices for the judge. Especially because every time then that you make use of that argument or make use of your overview in your speech, it's like it just mutually reinforces what you said earlier for the judge. It's like the judge is like, oh yeah, I remember when they said that was bad for them. Oh, there's another place that's bad for them. Oh, there's another place that was bad for them to make that mistake. And then like your vision for why you win becomes the same vision the judge has because you've given that vision to them. You continue to reinforce it. So I like overviews to be something you can just constantly reinforce. That it's something that if you were redundant saying it, it would be good for you. That it's good for you that you're redundant to keep saying that. That to me is really important about overviews. I mean, underviews might be a better place to compare some arguments. I think overviews are a better place to just lay out your decision calculus, or your impact calculus, or your, maybe not impact